All right, what is up, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another episode of the Fighting Pit podcast. Episode number 28, getting close to the big 3-0 here, and I am joined, as usual, by my co-host WizardBeast. Mullahoo out this week, should be back with us next week, but we were really excited to talk about the submissions and winners from the Custom Mercs contest, well as Sir Finley and all that cool stuff. So definitely gonna get right on into that. How you doing this week, WizardBeast?
Doing good. Really liked all the submissions that we saw on Twitter and Discord. A lot of really creative ideas from Merc, so it's great to kind of go through it all and just see the ideas of the community.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. People put a lot of hard work into these designs. Never made one yourself, I definitely recommend trying it out. It's really fun, and it really shows you, or at least it showed me when I tried it out for the first time, there's so much interesting design space they can take with the game. And they've already started to explore some more of that space that we probably wouldn't have even thought about back at launch, with things like Maestra and all these different kind of bench mechanics and whatnot. So it's really interesting to see how much it's developed in a short time, and making custom mercenaries can kind of also be cool because the theme of this one was we wanted characters from Shadowlands or the new expansion, so maybe we will see some of the characters that were submitted for the contest actually end up in game, and then we can kind of compare the different designs people made to see how close it was to like the character we actually end up with, which is always kind of fun.
Yeah, no, it's cool to see, who kind of like guesses and stuff. Because I remember on the other drop too, I ended up having Deathwing, and some of the abilities were actually pretty close on the one
Yeah.
I made for him. And then someone else also made a Leroy, which that event came
Oh
out of
yeah, that's
nowhere, so that
right.
was really cool.
Yeah, no one is expecting Leroy. I remember Signs joked about it, but he didn't think it was going to happen either. I don't
Yep.
think any of us did. And then boom, Leroy. That's actually one thing I'm excited about now that we are gonna have the final Old Gods event here in another week or two. We'll finally have it, so the next event we won't really know what it's going to be, right? We won't have that easy prediction of, oh, it's just going to be the next Old God. So it's kind of nice that they're going to be hopefully spicing that up again, because I imagine we'll get at least one more event before the big drop with the 0.4 patch. So I could see it being in maybe 0.2 potentially. It really depends when 0.2 happens. I think typically what we get an expansion, and then usually about 2 weeks later there is a balance update. And the balance updates aren't usually major patches. Those are kind of their own separate little thing. It's like a point point something. And so that'll probably come in another week or two. Cthulhu is already baked into the patch we have right now. So once the time is right, he'll just automatically go live. And I could see in that 0.2 patch, which is usually the Battlegrounds patch, they could maybe add one more event for the month of September. And then by the time October rolls around, that's when we should be getting the mini set and our next big Mercenaries drop. Because I know a lot of people are excited about that, myself included.
Yeah, I know, because this last drop turned out really well, I think, with all of the mercenaries, and there was just so many that were like usable that you can throw into a bunch of different comps and everything and figure it out. And still, it took a long time to figure out, like, hey, what are the comps? I think it was like a good 3 weeks before we started seeing like the new shadow that kind of came out and everything from that too. So it's cool to see all of these new styles that came in. And as you were kind of saying, like with Maestra from this last drop, is we saw like new mechanics and a lot of things with bench. So I wonder like what new thing they might try to introduce with this next big drop. So really excited for that.
Yeah, last time with Sunken City, one thing we saw was, even though the bounties were pretty themed around all the Sunken City stuff, only a smaller selection of the characters were relevant to Sunken City. I think we had 18 mercs total, and 6 of them were the Nagas, so still a sizable chunk of the total set. But it's interesting to see that they're not, at least going off of that, they're not going to necessarily rely on all the new characters have to be about the new set. There'll probably be some characters like, I don't know if you saw that list I put out like last week or so, but there were a bunch of characters that were found at the very beginning of the game, and they just have not come out. And it was interesting because this like data mine leak thing dropped before Mercenaries came out, like right before release. And when you go back and look through them, there are a bunch of characters that have come out since then. Like Trigor was in there, Eudora was in there, Cho was in there, but he was a red. Like, it's pretty interesting. Maev was in there as a green. So it's neat to see how some of these characters have, like, at least the concepts for them have been around since, like, the beginning. And it makes you wonder, like, how many mercs do they just have, like, stored up, ready to go? Because it's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, in less than a year's time since release, we have pretty much doubled the total amount of characters in the game. And with that, like, being said, a lot of like launch characters got better too. Of course, there are still a lot of characters that aren't making the cut, but I think we have seen with these recent buffs that they are interested in getting some of those more unplayable characters at least to a level where they're usable somewhat. Which is good, because that's basically like creating a whole new mercenary essentially some of the time. Like these Brightwing reworks, even the Murgle one to a lesser extent, like he feels like a totally different character. Not that many people know what he felt like before, but
yeah, I mean, that's the good thing about this too, is especially with, like reworks like this, is it's not a new mercenary coming out that you have to also grind all the coins for. One of these old mercenaries, people already have a lot of coins already maxed with them.
True.
So the cool thing about that too is the changes happen. Oh, I can play them maxed right away most of the time. So that's the cool thing, is you could just, they changed, come out, get to play and have the gameplay and not have to worry about that grind, which, that's what some people complain about with mercenaries, is the grind to try and get all the characters maxed. So it's really cool when characters they already have maxed, like say like Gul'dan, once he comes out, I already have him maxed. It'll be cool if they do like a rework for him eventually or something. So, because he's definitely one of the top people, him and Demons now.
Yeah, him, Jiraxis, they could all use just a little bit of a nudge in the right direction in terms of abilities rather than just stats. Like, I know Jiraxis just got some stats recently, but it's really, the Fel comp just needs more, to be doing more proactive and stronger things if it wants to compete with a lot of the other very powerful synergies in the game right now. So hopefully we'll get there. Maybe we'll get some Fel support in the expansion too, so maybe that can help us out. I'd be surprised if we didn't see any. Feels like if there's a time to deliver Fel support, it could make sense to do it with like the kind of theme of the current expansion.
Yeah, because the one thing that we have been seeing is there's been like, I would say like small, like, very like small Fel support, because we have seen it, but it's all like attached to like equipments where it's like, hey, you might get like passive Fel damage, or there's like Fel resist equipment, like certain Fel things added to the game. But there's not been straight just like, hey, here's a character with 3 Fel spells. They are made for Fel. This is going to really amp it up. I think one of the Nagas has like 1 Fel spell that you use, but it's on a cooldown thing, and it's not like it really fits in with the Fel comp. It's just like, hey, the ability is Fel,
Yeah, yep.
So I want to see some like hard line just Fel support, just to give me a full Fel character, and that can hopefully, give that Fel comp just a little boost to kind of at least start rising up. Doesn't have to like be like, hey, Fel's going to be S tier right away, but something where it can just compete now and not be like a D tier basically comp.
Definitely. And speaking of underappreciated comps, played a little bit with Murlocs this week. They've definitely gotten a bit better. Was able to steal some games versus some very decent comps. So that was kind of cool. And also in the vein of Murlocs, we can talk about Finley. So Finley dropped this week. Unfortunately, on release, there was a bug with his task. So task 2, the Murlocology, was not completable for his task 2. So they actually temporarily disabled the task, which is interesting because we've never seen them do that before for one of these broken tasks. It's been a little bit since we've actually had a bug task. The last few releases have been pretty decent, at least about task progression, compared to earlier on in the game's lifespan. But they actually disabled it temporarily, and when they got the fix out, I think it went out on Wednesday evening or Thursday morning. sometime around there. But when it did go back out, they actually just re-enabled task and you got it back. So it disappeared, but it came back. So it's kind of interesting. Probably a good thing, I guess, because if they know it's broken, they don't want people
Mm-hmm.
to get frustrated seeing it there and trying to do it and it not working. So it's neat to see they have, like, that's not a technology they'd previously used in Mercenaries. So kind of neat to see. But it's good they were able to get it fixed quickly. Obviously, it's not ideal to have it not work on the day of release, but
Yeah.
sometimes things happen, and at least they were able to get fixed pretty quickly. Because I know I was relying on a lot of those task coins to get Finley up. I didn't do a crazy amount of farming beforehand or anything, so I had to wait like an extra day or two before I could grind him out and give him a shot on ladder. But so far, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth here in a bit, Finley's felt really neat. Like he's a solid addition to the Explorers. Surprisingly, might also be pretty good with Holy. And I haven't tried him too much with Murlocs yet, so the boat's still out on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But he seems
I
pretty
mean,
cool.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, his design I really like, and he definitely, I think, is the support that is at least needed to start getting like the Morale comp in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And now Explorers, it feels like we have like the full set of Explorers now too, because we
Mm-hmm.
were always missing the Finley. So it's cool to have him hop in here now. So I think, yeah, he's kind of can fit in a couple different comps, and like you were saying, also put him in Holy because he does have that Holy tag. So and even he has Nature also on his first ability, so maybe there could be somewhere where he fits in Nature. So we'll just have to kind of see if that. But so far, yeah, looks like a really cool character to just come out and design, and also having Cthulhu in less than 2 weeks, so that'll be a really cool one also to have come out soon.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to see what the new Old Gods variants are looking like, and if there'll be builds that use Cthulhu without Old Gods, or if he's like Old Gods only. And then we can finally have the quadruple diamond portrait. I mean,
Mhm.
if you get Sylvanas in there, that's 5. The Queen, boom, full 6 diamond potentially living the dream, and have them all
Yep.
be like good characters too.
Yeah, I know, because I don't think I've seen any comp that's been good where you've had like all
Yeah,
diamonds. The cool thing with the old gods is everyone can get these diamonds if they did the events. So right there, that's 4 of them. And then if you can find 2 more characters they can throw in that you have diamonds for, you can get a full diamond comp. So that is really cool to kind of see that, because I'd say this is probably like the first time that you can actually kind of do that and having a
yeah,
decent comp with it too.
I think so. Like, obviously, you'd be missing out on the fast Vol'jin stuff, but and who knows? Maybe eventually, and we kind of had this idea a long time ago. Maybe we can see some other way to get rewards for like a higher tier, like diamond or whatever, for not
Mhm.
legendaries, but have them be earnable as rewards. That could be like a really neat thing to do. Part of the end game around is if you survive long enough or complete enough bounties in the end game, you get like a special portrait or something, kind of like the golden heroes in Constructed, right? Like that
Yeah.
would be, it would be cool to give people, especially like ourselves who are more PvP focused, a reason to like grind the end game that you could then like show off in PvP,
Mhm.
right? Because they're not going to do something where it's going to be like a numbers advantage or anything like that. Like I imagine that's all
Yeah.
going to be pretty self-contained to the PvE. Um, but it would be neat to show off like, oh hey, they have this skin that means they got to like level 100 or something in the PvE end game.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think that'd be a great just incentive for like everyone likes cosmetics, especially if you can get them for free,
Mm-hmm.
and ones that you could also not just get by luck or doing something like, just opening packs, like, hey, I
Yeah.
got the diamond. Like, that's great. But having something, as you said, that we can show for like how much we played or how much that we've actually like struggled to like get that far and show off like, hey, I got this really cool diamond skin. This shows that I'm a pretty good player in doing this. So I think something like that is really cool. So we have seen some things like the achievements that came out with the last one, and that awarded a couple skins for Tyrael and Elise. So
Mm-hmm.
that is cool that they're starting to, find other ways of giving us skins. And yeah, I think with this new PvE endgame system that we'll get, I think at the beginning of next year sometime, I think that's definitely a great opportunity for them to give us another way to kind of figure out how to get more skins. So I'm definitely excited for that.
Yeah, me too. I think I think it's really gonna be worth the extra time it took. I don't think anyone wants it to be a case of they rush it out the door and then it's like launch where it just kind of comes out half baked and people aren't happy with it and then they have to go take all this time to fix it. And I'd rather it just be right on the first thing because that's a good way to actually get people back into the mode potentially. Say like, hey, now you can actually have something to work for in PvE, and then maybe that can also help them progress towards PvP in a way too. If it's somehow progressing, let's say you have like one maxed out comp, and you take that to the end game, but it is able to help you progress the rest of your collection somehow. Obviously, there'll need to be other rewards because if this is geared as the end game, there's got to be something for players who do have all your characters leveled out, right? You got to give them a carrot on the stick. And I'm not sure what that would be yet. I think it's going to be something entirely new and different than what we've seen before. But cosmetics would be a pretty neat option for one of those rewards. I wouldn't want it to be the only one, but it would be nice to have as one of the possible rewards you could get from something like that.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a great one. And also what I would really like to see would be eventually boards. We've seen that in Battleground. And with mercenaries, that would be a great thing that you can throw on together. Like it is most of the boards, have just a little touch up in the corners. Like imagine if you have like cool things happening all around it. Like there's so much that they could do with the boards, like maybe like stadiums or like something. Like they could do like, the fighting pit. Imagine if you had like a Coliseum type style, like for the board where they're all fighting. There's just like so many cool ideas that they could do with this. So I really hope that eventually that is like something else that they would add to mercenaries.
Definitely agree. I think that'd be really cool. I loved when we first got Darkshore. How that was our first board that is like very distinguishable from a lot of the other ones because it's like darker. Just like
I would say that's my favorite out of all of them.
It's really good. And I think that was one of the complaints from people when Mercenaries launched, like a minor complaint, but still one nonetheless, was, hey, the boards look kind of bland. Like, there's nothing really going on in the downtime in the little corners like you have in Battlegrounds or Constructed. And that could be definitely a thing that could be worked on and improved and whatnot. I don't know if maybe there's a reason they decided not to do that this time around for this mode. I'm not really sure, but I think seeing something like that would be really cool. And I think players would love having just a bit more variety in the boards. It's not like a big priority, but it'd be like a nice little quality of life improvement, kind of like we've gotten with some of the really cool animations that have been added recently.
Yeah, for sure. The only thing I could think of somehow is maybe because like the screen changes from when you're actually fighting as mercenaries once you both hit ready, kind of like does the zoom in and all the animations. I'm not
Yeah,
too
that could
big
be a
on
part
tech
of it
for that,
actually.
so
That
yeah.
actually makes sense. Because it zooms in, maybe they kind of thought, hey, you're not going to be seeing the board as often, so maybe it's not as important, or they wanted to keep it a bit visually simpler because that's not where they want you focusing. Also, Mercenaries doesn't really have as much downtime as Constructed or Battlegrounds. Usually it's a little bit shorter. So that could be another reason, but definitely interesting to think about. Would be cool to see something like that in the future. But we do want to get into our custom mercenary contest winners this time around. If you don't know, we did a contest, announced our contest last week. So 2 winners will get the Tavern Pass for the new expansion. Really pretty dope stuff on there. Some stuff for Constructed, Mercenaries, Battlegrounds, and just some gold you can use however you see fit. We had some really great entries as always. It's always really hard to pick. You guys all do a really good job. And there's some really creative ones. And probably going to take up a lot of our time on the show this week is just kind of talking about these designs and what we like and all that kind of stuff. Because we do have our 2 winners. And then we also have 2 runners up that we are going to showcase. Because I did want to show a few more of the custom mercenaries this time around. Since people put so much work into them. But yeah, let's take a look here at our custom mercenary winners. So the first one we have is the Arbiter. So this was done by Kapar Zivil. And this is a really, really cool character. So it's a caster, 5 attack, 83 health, max stats. The first ability is Omnipotence. Deal 12 damage to the lowest health enemy. If it's a minion, deal critical damage. And one of the coolest things about this is it is all spell types. So I thought that was really like a flavorful thing with Omnipotence. Just kind of, and now that we have a little bit of precedence for something like this, like with how Ashara just has generic spell damage, I think it's really cool to have a ability on a character that is all of the different spell types. So you could run it in a bunch of different builds and whatnot, and still get benefit from any kind of weakness or damage buff for a particular spell school. And then here, I'll just go through it real quick, and then we'll say what we like about it and all that jazz. So, Eternal Judgment, 6 speed, set an enemy's health to half its current value, rounded up. And then Eternal Rest, 1 cooldown, 2 speed, go dormant until start of next turn. Oh, and Omnipotence was 4 speed. I think I forgot to mention that at the start, with no cooldown. So really cool abilities there. And then the items, we have Omniscience, start of the game, -10 health, reveal your opponent's lineup, does not show equipment. Then the Arbiter's Will, Eternal Judgment affects all enemies, but has +2 cooldown. And Restful Slumber, passive, after waking from dormant, cast Omnipotence 5. Yeah, really sick character here. What do you think about this guy, WizardBeast?
Yeah, no, I think the design is really cool, and also having the tag of the Eternal one too. So maybe, if there was other like Eternal ones that could have like buffs up, kind of like how the old gods have their own tags. So I think the design overall is really cool, and also another thing is the equipments too. I think that's like one of the main things we talk about in Mercenaries is it's great to have multiple equipments that are useful. And this one kind of has a little bit of like everything, You got a start of the game one here, which is kind of more of an info where it reveals your opponent's lineup. So it's like, okay, I kind of know what I can do and kind of what to look for and everything. Then Eternal Judgment. So which I think is also really cool is making abilities stronger and adding more cooldown. We see that with like Brucon, with the Chain Lightning that you can do. And then also the passive of basically after going from dormant waking up, how you can cast the ability, which is kind of cool, which we see with like more things happening with mainly like bench currently in the game. But this is cool, introducing dormant into Mercenaries. And yeah, just really like the overall style of this character. It's all unique abilities that aren't really any just kind of like deal flat damage as like some of the earlier mercs that we saw. So it's really cool to kind of see how they built up on like all of these kind of different styles, and it's really has like so much playability and can kind of play like in any comp if it was in the game.
Yeah, it feels very interesting and strong, but not necessarily like too heavy-handed strong. It feels like there's like a decent bit of downside to some of these abilities because they're decently strong. Like I really like the Eternal Judgment one where setting an enemy's health to half its current value is a lot, right? Like that's basically just cutting their health straight in half. And it does something we don't currently have a way of doing, which is basically helping to deal with some of these larger stat builds, especially like the big humans that heal up and whatnot. So if you like set their health to half, even if they get a big heal, they're only going up to that half value point. And so it's not super different than dealing damage. 1 cooldown, definitely important on something like this. You wouldn't want to be spamming this every turn, but definitely seems like a neat ability. And the fact that you can make it an AoE, but you have to wait till way later in the game also seems like really interesting. Dormant in Merc seems like a really cool way to kind of protect yourself as a character. So you do want that to be faster at 2 speed, just kind of you want the Arbiter to survive another turn, you just go dormant, can't get hit by anything. And then that passive where you would cast Omnipotence once you come out of dormant also seems really, really cool. I like that ability a lot. And probably my favorite part of this, though, is the Omniscience, which just being able to, I think this would be one of the most powerful abilities in the game if you're in the right comp. specifically a comp that has multiple openers depending on the matchups. If you can always see what your opponent has, minus 10 health and an item cost requirement is a very small downside to make sure you're always opening as best as possible against your opponent, and you can like start anticipating what they're going to do before you even have your characters in play while you're still picking. So like this is probably my favorite part of the card. It's just so, that is such a really cool and really powerful ability, and it feels in theme with like the character. Like it definitely slam dunk there for me. I really like that one a lot.
Yeah, the theme of the character is perfect. Basically, like the overseer of all the souls going to the Shadowlands, so you can kind of like reveal your opponent, see like all the souls of the mercs and everything. So it's really cool. And yeah, as you said earlier too, it's not like super overpowered in certain things. Kind of like the second ability with the Eternal Judgment, where you're setting the health basically rounded down to half. You can't really use that if they're already pretty low too. So it's
Yep.
not like it's going to keep going up. So it's only good in certain situations where it's like, okay, they're basically coming in as full or very close to that or have high health. But then after that, kind of like gets rid of its own ability because it's not really useful anymore. So it feels like it also, in a way, it's like balanced too. So it's like a perfect kind of fit for everything. It feels like it could be an actual merc in the game.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And it's kind of neat. I like the bit where omnipotence can crit the minions, but I think it's kind of because of the fact that it already has kind of a potential downside built in there where you can't target that wherever you want it. It's like Valera's attack, except probably a little bit harder to aim because Valera's attack usually you can just pick something to whittle down, whereas this, I mean, you technically could. So they have the same kind of weakness. You're also not getting an additional plus 10 attack for free, like like with Valera's attack. But I like seeing kind of a downside restriction like this, given that there could be a lot of power with stacking up of multiple spell school damage and just flat spell damage, because that
Yeah, because
could get pretty strong pretty quick.
yeah, no, like we see just with all of these spell comps of just how strong they can get. So if you could have multiple stackers and different things, basically kind of figure out like a blend comp, then yeah, this could be very strong. And especially in a comp where you would want multiple openers, then that could work out into your favor of having different spell schools to kind of combo with this. So yeah, overall, I just think it's a great card and definitely deserves to be one of our choices.
For sure, yeah. So again, big props to K Parzival for this one. One of our fighting pit finalists too in the last Popper tournament. So cool to see him come up with something really sweet here. We're gonna check out our next winner here, which was in the pubway. Hope I'm probably saying that wrong, but they ended up making a Kael'thas Sunstrider. Do you want to read through this one, WizardBeast?
Yeah, so for Kael'thas, this is a 1077 fighter. It is also a blood elf. And then for its abilities, it is a Phoenix Flames, has 7 speed at level 5, and it is deal 8 damage to an enemy and its neighbors. If this is your third fire ability this turn, repeat this twice and has 0 cooldown. Then its second ability, Flame Lance, level 5, also 5 speed and has 0 cooldown, is deal 12 damage, deals critical damage to minions, and then fire combo, this merc gains that much health. And then his third ability, which is Pyroblast, level 5, 10 speed, 2 cooldown, so it's a higher cooldown ability, deal 20 damage, has plus 2 fire, has plus 2 damage for every fire ability you've cast while this merc is in play. And
Mm-hmm.
all of his abilities are labeled fire. Then for his equipment, he has Ashes of Alar, and its battle cries summon a 325 Phoenix. And then second equipment is Pyromancer's Aura, which is passive +2 +10, and your fire abilities always combo. And then third is Fellfire Signet +3 fell damage. This Merc's abilities deal fell damage instead. So it's a really cool design also where you're basically just completely changing how the mercs work. Basically going all the way from the fire just straight up into the fell, which is really cool.
Yeah, I love that part of the design. Like, this is something I think if we saw something like this, not only would it give a lot of options to comps that aren't super duper supported right now, like Bell or Fire. I love just being able to. It's not like split between Fell and Fire. You're just like going one way or the other. But the fact that you can do both, and all it takes is an item to change that, is a really cool design, and it is a design I would definitely be interested in seeing in the game. Like, it would be really sweet if you don't really realize until you see what is with the mercenary which way it's going to end up playing out, if he's going to be going for that fell damage or the fire damage. And it would also just give it more reason to be run in a variety of comps. Again, like we've talked about before, that item diversity, making it so the character plays very differently depending on their items. And you kind of have that here. It can play 3 different ways. You can have you're going all in on the fell damage. You can get a little bit more stats and help out with triggering your fire combos. And then the Phoenix, they actually did submit not only the Phoenix token, but also 2 alternate skins for Kael'thas. So I thought I was really impressed by the little going the extra mile there. So the Phoenix, it's a 325 elemental. It cannot attack. Whenever you cast a fire ability, it deals 5 damage to an enemy, and Death Rattle summon a 0/15 Phoenix Egg. And then the Phoenix Egg also cannot attack. Start of turn, if Kael'thas is alive, it revives into a 325 Phoenix. So I love that. I think that's super cool design, and it's very thematic, obviously, of the Phoenix. And it just gives you kind of a different way to play with the character while still doing like fire damage stuff, almost like Belinda's fire elemental in a way, but more passive. So I think it's really cool. I would love to see Fire get some kind of character like this. Like, I think that's what we all liked about Belinda when she first came out, was she was a blend of fire and frost, so you could run her in either. Obviously, fire wasn't really as good back then, but it's getting a little bit better with time, and maybe if we saw another character like this, that could help push it back over the edge a bit.
Yeah, no, it's great to see characters like that where it has blend, like as you mentioned, blend of basically the fire and frost. So having this where it's kind of like the blend between fire and fell, that would be like a really cool thing. And I really like what they did also with all of like the fire style, because the main thing we've seen with fire is like the fire combos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to have equipment where it's always triggering it, but then they kind of took it a step further with the first ability, where if this is your 3rd fire ability this turn, repeat this ability twice. For the first one, where it's dealing damage 8 damage to an enemy and also its neighbors. So it's really cool, and it's kind of like an extra fire combo in a way. It's like, okay, you got to do your first fire spell, then your second, and then you got your third one, and it's like a double fire combo in a way, and it's going off 3 times then. So it's really cool how they kind of added that mechanic and still kept it in the same thing of like the fire
Mm-hmm.
realm of like their type and how they're going on that. And then yeah, I really like the design also for the Phoenix overall, having basically the Phoenix just keep resurrecting as long as you have Kael'thas. So it's really cool to show that. And still another way, like if you want to go fire, it's not just, oh, I'm going to unlock this one equipment. It's like you could do Phoenix or you could do the one for the
Mm-hmm.
fire combos. So it kind of depends on your fire style then. So it's really cool to, again, see a mercenary that has like 3 equipments that you can use in a bunch of different scenarios instead of just having 1 or 2, which we've seen, mercenaries kind of take that better approach, and mercs are a lot better when they have, more variety in their gameplay. So overall, just like the theme of this character has been great. And especially for kind of fitting the shed out lands theme with the fell too.
Mm-hmm.
It was really cool to see just even playing against Kel'Thas in the raid. It was really cool, and it fits the theme perfectly.
Yeah, one thing I would think that's really awesome is I love the design for that first skill where it does the Kael'thas thing, where if this is your 3rd trigger, you get like a cool effect. I think
Mhm.
it might be a little busted in its current form, because if we think about, like, you can have that passive fire damage from Ragnaros, so that makes it 11 damage, so it's hitting a target and its neighbors, and then you could get an AoE. But obviously you couldn't like frag Die Insect, so you'd have to like fire combo Actually, it's kind of interesting because you would have to use Rag or maybe Yulon or someone else as a
Mm.
combo enabler, or Bran even. Oh god, Bran would be
Oh,
disgusting with
Bran with
this.
this.
Yeah, Bran, Geddon, Kael'thas would be a pretty gross combo. Like huge AoE, and then this is
Mm.
essentially an AoE, and then it would repeat 2 more times. But then, yeah, I mean, maybe it is kind of like borderline in terms of might be a little too strong potentially, and if it were released exactly like this. But I still love the design, and I think it would be really cool to see a character like this get added. Definitely more fire support. I think it's a neat way to touch on Kael'thas that is relevant not only to his like original character, but really kind of showcases that Shadowlands version of himself, which would go in line with the recent expansion.
Yeah, they just did an overall great job, and basically kind of going that too, where he's also not too strong stat wise. Some of the fighters, have a little bit like more of 80 plus now too, so it's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more squishy, kind of like how Kel'Thas is more of like known as like a glass cannon in some ways too, of where he just does a ton of damage, but is a little weaker on the health side too. So it kind of definitely fits the theme there also. But yeah, and especially with the fell support equipment, like as I was saying earlier, just having a character like this where you can basically make all of the fire abilities just fell, that's like something that Fell needs. So that would be a really cool just support in that way also.
Definitely agree. Yeah, really cool character. I hope we do see Kael'thas, whether it's his original version or this version, the Sin Strider, as they say on the card. Because he's just a very iconic character, and it would be very fun to see him in Mercenaries and see if their design ends up anywhere near what this cool custom one was. I'd love to see that triple, like in old Kael'thas, you get to see like the nice little effect where like one thing lights up and then the second lights up and then the third one goes and you get your effect. It'd be neat if they found a way to do something like that. In Mercenaries, it's very much his thing.
Yeah, I'd say the thing kind of close to that is the new Anaconda equipment,
Mhm,
where it's
yeah, just
three
like
nature
that.
abilities. So yeah, something just like that, basically for fire. So yeah, really cool design.
Yeah, so again, big shout out to In the Pubway. So we will send some DMs out for y'all to get those tavern passes. Congrats again. Thank you for the submissions. And we are going to take a look at 2 runners up here, 2 other designs we really, really liked that were in the running, that we thought were also worth showcasing and talking about a little bit. So the first one of those is the Winter Queen. This one comes from Worse Karma. Really neat character here. So it's a caster, 8 attack, 90 health, eternal. First ability, Queen's Touch. Deal 15 damage, life steal, nature. Then the second ability is Summon Wild Seed, 2 speed, 1 cooldown. Summon a copy of a beast and randomly use one of its abilities. It dies at the end of turn. And then Cycle of Rebirth, 10 speed, 3 cooldown. Make this Merc's health, or have this Merc's health rounded down. Summon a friendly beast merc that has died this game with health equal to the health loss. Nature. And then the equipments, she has the Ruler of Ardenweld. Passive adjacent beasts have lifesteal. Then Sigil of the Night Fae. Yeah, Night Fae. The copy from Summon Wild Seed lasts 1 turn longer, but the ability has +1 cooldown. And then Tear of a Loon, your abilities also affect dragons. So this is a really, really cool character. I love the one, just seeing lifesteal and mercenaries is neat. We haven't actually gotten something like that before. The closest we have are those abilities like on the Queen or Malfurion, where we get like a AoE proc for spell school. But we don't really have an exact heal that much damage. So it would be cool and thematic to get something like that for the Shadowlands and whatnot. I love Summon Wild Seed. I think that is really, really cool that you can just copy a beast, and it doesn't specify just being a summon. So you could copy a beast mercenary and use its ability, but obviously it is going to die at the end of turn. It's not sticking around. But I think that's obviously important for balance. And then Cycle of Rebirth is just a really, really cool idea where you can just totally revive, and it specifies merc, so you're not gonna dilute your pool by running token beasts and stuff. But there is a pretty decent downside to that too, where you're giving up a lot of your health, and it's gonna come in at lower health as well. But maybe, we've seen that kind of meme comp where you can get 4 mercs and play at one time, and sometimes it can be powerful having a whole extra character in action.
Yeah, overall, it's just also a great theme too, like fitting for the Winter Queen of basically the rebirth and everything of the Wild
Mhm.
Seeds, because that's what she was all about basically in Shadowlands. And what I really like also is with Tear of Elune, basically how your abilities affect dragons. So it's really cool how she's basically brought back Ysera back to life. So
Oh,
she was
really?
actually, yeah. So in the story, she's the one who resurrects Ysera, and basically that with the Tear of Elune and everything, because she's tied to her sister of Elune.
Hmm.
So basically kind of fits in with that and then attaches the dragon theme. So it's cool how she can again sing more mercenaries, kind of like Kel'Thas, where he was fire and fell. This one's kind of like beast and dragons. So it's cool to kind of go down that road. And then also like the Wild Seed, it's just a really cool ability. Basically, yeah, you're having a copy of a beast come and play and then using one of its abilities randomly and then dying at the end of the turn. So it's not like, oh, you're getting a whole mercenary and stuff like the third one where it's that, but then again has the downside of taking some of her life away basically to get another mercenary on the board. So it's kind of even out, not something that's like super overpowered where it's just like, hey, you're gonna just have a mercenary just basically come back to life. So
Hmm.
it's really cool to see this overall design and then having the lifesteal mechanic added to the game because we don't have anything necessarily like that. We have some abilities. I think it's like Bane where it's like attack and then combo, then get like health after.
Yeah.
So it's kind of separated, but this is all in one. It's deal the damage and heal. So it's really cool to see that and just have some cool beast support and even more dragon support in the game with this.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little bit terrifying for the arcane bench comp, obviously, but at the same time, you ran into the issue of that comp only has so many slots, right? You kind of need most of your units to be beasts or dragons and whatnot. So I do love the lifesteal stuff. Also, the idea that you could have lifesteal on your adjacent beasts could be really neat. Um, I shudder to think about a life stealing Trigor. That's a little
Oh,
terrifying. That would
yep.
be that might be a little bit too dangerous. But if you think about it, then Trigor would have to be used at least a bit more defensively because obviously you can't really have him in the middle unless he's the only one getting life steal, and then the Winter Queen can't swing herself in, right? So she can't like double dip on Trigor's effect. So maybe it wouldn't be crazy overpowered, but yeah, the idea of Trigor hitting
It's just
something and then just healing up a bunch so it can stick around would be pretty disgusting. But I love the idea. Like, uh, it would be really cool to see lifesteal make its way into Mercs, and it wouldn't surprise me if uh, not Renathal, if Denathrius had lifesteal, because I know his card in Constructed has lifesteal, so it'd be neat if maybe that's a similar approach they went for if we do end up getting a mercenary for him in the big drop.
Yeah, it's a really cool design, and I think it would be a cool mechanic welcome to Mercs too, just as long as it's not too much, because, especially if those big builds now, if you have something that has like 40, 50 attack things on crits and you're healing for that much and dealing that much
Hmm.
damage, it can kind of take off. But for this, at least with just, being a nature ability, deal 15 damage right there. And even like nature ramp, you say like Recon, it's +3. So it's like, okay, +3 more damage, +3 more life or something. So still would take a while to ramp up. So I think like 15 damage is like a fair value to have for it. And yeah, it's just overall great mechanics that kind of fit in. Got that new mechanic of kind of the revive with mercenary, and then also having that wild seed. I think it would just be a really cool thing to kind of see how it would fit. And it is more RNG too with the random ability it cast. But I
Hmm.
feel like this would be more of a fair RNG in the game versus something versus like a local art or Varden, where it's
Yeah,
kind of more of those random hits, where this is just like a random ability going off and something happening with it instead of just, hey, this is going to randomly hit like 10 times or something. So I think
yeah.
this is a cool skill to have RNG introduced in this way.
Yeah, it's definitely a neat idea, and like you said, very thematic too. Like I didn't even know a lot of the lore for the Winter Queen in particular, so that's cool to hear that it passes the lore test too. Because really love just even like not looking at the designs for what they do. The aesthetic also came out really nice. We judge mainly on the designs and if it's like true to the character, but it is nice seeing they picked some really good and fitting art for this too, which is really cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, really like this character. Definitely think it would be cool to see them make their way into mercenaries. Lifesteal might be a little crazy, but depends how it works. It may be on the right character. It wouldn't be too broken, but we'll have to wait and see. And then we have one final one here we wanted to take a look at. This is actually a character I think a few different people submitted versions of, which is kind of cool because it's a character that I think isn't getting a lot of love in Constructed because the card isn't very good for it. So it's cool to see people come up with some neat merc designs instead. This is, are you want to take this one, WizardBeast? Halkias? Is that what that?
Halkias. Yeah, so Halkias is basically the last one that we had as the runner-up, and for his design, he is a protector as a 985, and he doesn't have any types or anything, so just 985 protector. First ability is Crumbling Slam. It is 0 cooldown, 7 speed. Attack an enemy. If this was dealt damage this turn, deal 12 damage to the target and adjacent enemies. So that's a really cool feature to kind of see.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have for the second one is Sinstone Golem, 0 cooldown also, 1 speed. Summon a 615 Sinstone Golem with Death Rattle, restore 10 health to all friendly characters. Then we have its third ability, Dazzling Sinlight, 8 speed and 1 cooldown. Deal 10 damage to all enemies. If an enemy attack this round, give it -5 attack permanently. And this is also a shadow ability. Then for the equipment, it is Glass Shard 4. Crumbling Slam gains Bleed 6. So that would be on the first ability. Then second one is Hostile Architecture, which 4 is also gain taunt and death rattle, summon a 615 Sinstone Golem. And then its third and last equipment is release Sins, level 4. Sinstone Golems gain death rattle, deal 10 damage to a random enemy. So yeah, I think this is also a really cool design going into it. With it's kind of a slower merc on most of its abilities besides the second one, and it's kind of against those attacking mercs where, hey, if this is actually being attacked, I'm going to get bonuses for that. So it's really cool
Mm-hmm.
to kind of see that effect going in. And always good to have mercenaries that are also going slower instead of just having all of the super fast mercenaries that go in. So having especially that first ability where attack an enemy, if this was dealt damage this turn, deal 12 damage to the target and adjacent enemies. It's really cool to have kind of like that tankier merc that you can have in there where it's kind of benefiting from all that.
Yeah, and I really like the design of it. It's feels very thematic. I really like the ability where it gets that taunt and a death rattle. I think there should be more characters, kind of like Vandar, where an equipment can give you start of the game taunt. I think having to
Mhm.
take a turn off to taunt is often really not good, and I think that's one of the reasons why Reno has been so good, is because taunt is kind of baked into an already good ability. So not only are you, and now it's permanent taunt too, so you don't even need to
Yep.
cast it every turn to get taunt. You just cast it once and you're taunted. That's really nice. But the fact that you're doing something good on top of that by basically giving yourself spell taunt or ability taunt, if applicable, that's like a really big bonus. I'd just like to see more characters that can taunt without having to have like a battle cry summon like we've seen. They did basically a Naga version of Mukla, which is kind of neat, where they
Mhm.
just have the 12-24 taunt summon on battle cry, and that's neat. But it'd be cool to see like you start with the taunt, and then if you end up dying, not only do you have abilities that benefit from your character being attacked, you also get like a little summon back. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, no, it's cool to see how the equipment's kind of like stacking on top of each other. So like before, as you saw, like Vandar, has that like taunt, but also plus some of the stats. Where yeah, this one has the taunt and then also has the death rattle. Basically, you get another summon with it. So it is cool to see equipment again like this that has kind of a little bit of a change on that. And then yeah, even just having the summon too, it's a 1 speed, so it's very fast. Just having that little summon come out, and then it's more of a defensive summon too, because it's the death
Hmm.
rattle of healing all of your characters. So it's cool to kind of see a summon more defensive like that, because there's not many other ones besides those battlecry ones where it's like necessarily taunt. This one's more of like, okay, your team's taking some damage. I'm gonna run him in real quick. He's gonna take some damage, do a little bit, but then heal my whole team for 10. So that's kind of cool to see that kind of stack up and have that kind of be like a little thing that works around it.
Yeah, because the only really defensive one we've seen outside the taunts has been Bane's Totem, which is a really cool one, where it will absorb, it will like replace taking the damage for one of the characters next to it, and I love that design. I also really like that they have an ability that can make it so the Sinstone Golems are not just a defensive thing, but they can also be offensive. So not only are you healing your characters for 10, but you're doing 10 to a random enemy. So it's like even more reason for kind of punishing them for killing your stuff, or maybe you find a way to kill your own stuff. Maybe you pair this with like a Deathwing's ability that nukes the whole board, and then it keeps going off, but it heals your guys and it's dealing more damage to theirs. It'd be pretty neat. So I really like the overall flexibility of the items. They all feel like they take the character in like a slightly different direction, which I think is really important for mercenaries.
Yeah, just having it where you can basically customize the character in the way you want to play it. So that's always a great thing to have instead of just being stuck, okay, this character only does this. So, and even another just bonus, I think, on top of it is just like all of the artwork that they picked. I feel like it
Hmm.
goes exactly like for the abilities. Like they all look like it fits perfectly. So that's just another bonus on top of everything for me. And yeah, it's just a really cool design overall, kind of being this more a little bit defensive, like aggro mercenary, I would say. So more defensive, like protecting your team, but then also being able to dish out the damage that is needed after it's taking damage. So really cool design overall. And yeah, I think it's a great runner up.
Yeah, so a big shout out to Lurks for this one. I believe this one was submitted over in the Discord. So we also have a channel in the Discord now for custom mercenaries. So if you ever want to end up creating one for fun and you want to share it with people, definitely check out the Discord. The link to that will be in the description below. Yeah, big shout outs to our winners, Capar Zivriel and In the Pubway, and our runners up, Worst Karma and Lurks, as well as everyone who just submitted. We got so many submissions, and it is always really hard to pick because you guys come up with a lot of really cool designs. And this is definitely something we're going to continue doing in the future. I would not be surprised if we had something similar go on around the time of the new Mercenaries drop. So maybe we'll see if we can do something special around there. Maybe we'll get extra lucky and Blizzard will give us some stuff to do, but only time will tell on that one. But yeah, big shout out to everyone who participated. Thank you for all the submissions. And I definitely look forward to doing more stuff like this in the future because it's a lot of fun doing these community contests and seeing the creative stuff that people can come up with.
Yeah, for sure. It's really cool to see all these ideas that, we wouldn't even think about for like mercenaries and see how like they incorporate in their own kind of way into the game. And it's really cool just overall to see all these like hidden ideas that people have. And, you can also kind of like we saw like Dormant and stuff and like some of the lifesteal was taken from like the standard version of
Hmm.
Hearthstone and all of that of like previous cards. So it's cool to see how like the other modes also can like influence this a little bit. So I just really like the designs overall of like what people put in.
For sure. And pretty much a lot of people who have done the contest before, their feedback about it was they really enjoyed doing it because it made them think about a lot of things that you don't necessarily think about as a player playing the game.
Mhm.
Because we're just working with what we already have as opposed to like coming up with the ideas and making sure that it's like relatively balanced and works with other stuff. And there's a lot to it, but it's really satisfying seeing that design kind of come to life, and especially if you can find like some cool fitting thematic artwork and stuff for the abilities. And I think all the pretty much almost all the submissions did a really good job at that too. Not even just the ones we showcased today. Everyone put a lot of time in, and it definitely shows. So, really excited to see if we see any of these characters actually show up in the game, and maybe we can go back and compare to see if they were close to some of the fan designs, like what happened with Deathwing before.
Yep. Yeah, it's always cool to see like, how close they are and be like, wow, I actually got like one or two abilities like very close. And it's always cool to see like how close people can get to it. Because then, hey, maybe some of the people on the team are like, oh, these ones look actually pretty cool. Like maybe we'll put their designs in the future or something.
Yeah, you
So it's
never
always
know
cool
who's
to just,
watching, right?
yeah. So it's always just great to have the community just join in all together and like throw this together and just see what everyone can come up with.
For sure. So that's gonna be a wrap on our custom merc section. Figured we would just talk a little bit about some initial thoughts, impressions with Sir Finley, and then to close out the show for this week, we are going to do a explorer showdown here, kind of like we did a few weeks ago. Instead of doing a D tier draft list, me and WizardBeast are going to be sparring off in the fighting pit with an explorer focused comp. So using all 4 explorers. We have some fun ideas for that. I know I've done a little bit of testing on ladder, a few different builds, not too much because I just maxed, or not, I didn't even max him. I just got Finley playable today, so I only got to jam a handful. And I know you're still working on yours, right, WizardBeast?
Yeah, I haven't been able to grind them too much yet, so just been trying to get most of the other task lines down so I can start getting them to the newer ones, and hopefully Finley's pops up soon. Because yeah, I'm really excited for him overall of his design, and I think he's gonna be a great fit for the explorers and even Murlocs and other comps too.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. Like he's just a really neat character. And now we have such a critical mass of like the explorers who care so much about these buffs. Like my early impressions with him, like he doesn't seem overly insane or anything, but he does seem like a good character. And I've tried a few different builds. I've tried a build where you're kind of going all in on your stats on turn 1, and then when one of your explorers dies, you have Reno come in to heal the other 2, and that's been pretty sweet because you can just get like almost full value out of that 100 HP Reno heal, and they go from thinking, oh, I just killed one of their mercs, their other 2 are like super weak, I'll just pick them off next turn, then all of a sudden they're staring down 3 full health mercs and 2 of them are giant. And then they're going to keep scaling and whatnot, and it's really neat. So I really like the direction they went with the explorers. I'm super duper happy they changed those abilities to be inclusive of Finley. I think Finley
Mhm.
just would not have worked like at all without like uh the adding him to these abilities and whatnot. So I'm glad they did go back and
Yeah.
change that and buff them in some ways. Like the Elise buff is really, really significant. It feels like getting that +4/+4 at the end of turn. Because if we think about it, none of the other explorers, Elise kind of did, but Bran and Reno do not care about their attack stat at all. Reno kind of
Mhm.
does because he's a taunt, so things
Yeah.
have to smack into him. He's getting value out of his attack. But Bran, there's no way to make Bran attack in, right? Like all
Mhm.
his abilities are ranged. He's more of kind of a support character, even doubling up on one of your character's abilities. Like I think it's clear he's meant to not be swinging in himself. So you really just have Elise and Finley here. And a lot of the times in prior builds, Elise wasn't even doing a lot of swinging herself. You're more so just using her for the stat buff and big bleed. And then usually she became a target because people don't want to let you get to the golden monkey. So it's neat seeing Finley so far. I haven't tried him really in Murlocs yet, but I do think there could be something really cool, even in not dedicated Murloc builds, if you're just going like big stats. Another character that benefits greatly from big stats and could also combo with Finley would be Old Merc because he makes your Murlocs swing in where he swings in.
Mhm.
And then that way you could basically make a big Finley. You can swing in with Old Merc who would swing in with Finley, and Finley could swing in again on his own, and Finley would be buffing himself and Old Merc so it could be kind of a neat combo there.
Yeah, I think overall it'll be pretty cool. of just like having that combo, as you said, of Merc because you could just have a huge Finley and then make them basically both swing in with Merc. So I think that's really cool. And then also, I really like the design on his second ability too of Mercology because that's cool to have the discover mechanic and how we were just talking about earlier, how more of the mechanics that we've seen in like the standard Hearthstone card game is kind of like slowly coming into Merc. So we have that like discover now. So the first time we're seeing how this works, and it was a little different than what I thought. I thought because of the speed that it was going to cast the abilities faster.
Oh yeah, we should talk
But
about that. We should clarify what you're talking about there with his. So
second,
Finley's,
yeah,
yeah, his thing in the patch notes, it said it was going to be 2 speed, and
mhm,
in game, it is. There's no speed to it. You just click the button, and then you see the options, and then you pick an option, and I believe the option goes at whatever normal speed it would go at. So that right there, it's a bit worse than we initially thought. We thought it was going to speed up the ability, which would be kind of a neat upside. But one of the bigger things that I think is a little bit of a bummer about it is if you get, let's say you get some abilities you don't like and you don't use it that turn, if you go to use it next turn, you can't essentially re-roll those abilities. You can't click it and then discover 3 new abilities. And I think
mhm,
because of how it's worded, that should really be changed because I think it's making the ability like the launch pool of Murloc abilities is not incredibly great. Like some are okay, but there are also some not great ones in there. So I think, and for it to be true to discover, I get why it would just keep it for the same turn, so you can't just like keep pressing the button to re-roll the best abilities. But I think it would make more sense even if you don't use the ability. If next turn you can click it and then you get 3 new discover options.
mhm. Yeah, I think that would probably be better to kind of you don't see any good abilities, just like, okay, this won't fit this turn. Hopefully next turn I get a new set, but you're kind of stuck with that. So if you do get
Mm-hmm.
unlucky and get like 3 abilities that just are not useful at all, the good thing, at least with the Discover, is it is 3 abilities. So hopefully most of the time, at least one will be useful. That you can somehow fit in there. Like there are some Murloc abilities that have gotten buffed a little bit
Mm-hmm.
recently, especially with Murgle. So
True.
I think like Merc Eyes swing in just that's a good just auto attack a little bit faster than his normal one.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the Devour one. So I feel like I would say honestly, probably about half of the Murloc abilities I think would be useful.
Yeah, some
Kind of
are,
looking through
and some are very conditional, right? Like sometimes if you have an enemy on low HP, maybe you're going to be really happy you just rolled a cookie snipe, right? Like,
them.
and I think that's kind of the idea with the discover effect is your options will be conditional based on what's going on at that time. Um, but I did already have a game where the fact that I could swing in 1 speed faster at 5 speed as opposed to 6, and I also got to gain stats off of killing the opponent's mercenary was relevant. So it was cool to see the ability at least be good like once or twice already. But it definitely feels like Finley's strongest suit is buffing himself and other explorers and murlocs, and then his his skill 3 is actually quite good. The fact that you can just give something a ton of attack, whether that be himself or another character, and it is also going to buff himself and your other tribes potentially, and you're giving a divine shield. That divine shield has saved me like multiple times at this point. Just getting the divine shield off so I'm safe for next turn, or I'm safe before the big AoE comes in that turn. It's
Mhm.
been surprisingly good.
Yeah, and the cool thing too is this is only one cooldown. So like if you compare it to like Blessing of Kings, where Divine Shield we saw
Mm-hmm.
can be very strong, but you have to wait 2 more turns to use that. So you can use this already on turn 2, gain a bunch of attack, kind of take a safe turn of just buffing up your guy and even protecting it. So and being able to use that at 3 speed too, which that's a very fast speed. So like we even with King's Blessing, sometimes at 4, there's a lot of abilities that can go up faster now, so you can sometimes tie with it and have to watch
Mm-hmm.
out for other things. But 3 speed goes before a lot of things, unless there's like shadow of speed ramp up. So it's really cool to see how this ability actually can be very useful. Just like, okay, I'm gonna buff up more, be defensive. Next turn, then I'm gonna go for like a big attack. So it's always cool to kind of see that design. Like all of his abilities, I think fit really well because there's some mercs that have like 1 or 2 abilities. You just spam it. Oh, it's the best
Mm-hmm.
ability. I'm just going to use these. I feel like, different scenarios you can use all the different abilities. So it's really cool, and especially having Mercology. It's kind of like in a way having like 5 different abilities all available at the
Yeah,
time. So really cool.
it's really neat, and I love that kind of. We saw it a bit with like Kazakis, where you can have the 3 different golem choices. I love
Hmm.
when a Merc's ability gives it like more options for abilities. That adds a lot of like interesting decision making to the game, and that's always kind of fun. And another thing worth pointing out about his skill 3 is it is holy, and I was actually doing a few games of the big holy comp just before we started the recording today, and I put in Finley in place of Uther because I used to run Uther on the bench, and Uther obviously got better. He's a protector now too, which I think the Holy Comp has really wanted a protector for the bench. Before I was using Cornelius, and he could be okay, but he wasn't like the best. And even though you can only use Finley's Holy ability every other turn, it kind of combos perfectly with what the Holy Bench is trying to do in that comp, because that Holy Bench is just you have a lot of stats and you just start killing things. And that was the problem with Uther, was you couldn't leverage his attack unless you were just using him to taunt, because his only damage was the hammer or skill 3, and most of the time you weren't using skill 3. So you could scale up Uther a bunch, but his hammer would still hit for the same amount of damage. And now with Finley, I had like 2 different games where the fact that I had a big Finley and the fact that I did get buff it up and give it divine shield for a turn so it could like protect itself essentially won me the game, because I was able to one hit an incoming Sylvanas or a Sinestra. And just for that alone, that definitely gives me some confidence that Finley might end up having a place even outside. Like I wouldn't call the big comp an explorers focused comp. It does have explorers in it because it does use that traditional Reno, Tyrion, and Elise lead for all the buffs. But it doesn't feel like you're trying to lean into the synergy on the explorers. You're just having them because they work well for that style of build.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool, just idea to see how that all fits together. So, and we've seen like a lot of different builds that, can now work because of this big build up in the beginning from just a lot of buffs. So, seeing more characters that kind of fit into the backline also and be able to benefit from that and really work with that is really cool to kind of just keep adding to those design, because it makes a lot of characters fit in. I would say like a lot of these, especially like if you look back at it, like pirates and stuff, were not that good until we were able to get all of these buff characters come out, like with Elise.
Mm-hmm.
So having that enabled a lot more comps, and that's the cool thing about mercenaries is now that we're over basically going to be 100 with this, and we doubled up on mercenaries since launch, that there's going to be just so many different combinations, and kind of sky's the limit with all the ideas that someone wants to put together. And especially with this next big drop that we're going to have in a few months, it's going to be really cool to see all of the next new comps.
Yeah, honestly, October cannot get here soon enough. I think another thing that really is worth mentioning is I think they really nailed the overall power level for the most part of the recent drop. Where, yeah, Shadow got like a crazy amount of support, but I think that's more of a result of the fact that they decided to do all the old gods in a row, and it would have been kind of strange if they didn't have them all under the same spell school. And it also did end up giving us kind of an answer to Valera Nefarian, which was by far like best comp for quite some time leading up to the patch. So the fact that we finally got an answer, and that really only works the way it does because of all the shadow synergy and speeding up and stuff like that. And I was actually trying out an explorer build today where I didn't even have the anti-shadow equipment on Bran, but I was still able to beat the shadow comp surprisingly, just because you have so many stats that the Yasharaj can't kill the Elise on turn 1. You actually get to do a little bit more with it before your characters start dying, and then usually they'll leave Bran and Finley at relatively low HP, and then you get that Reno swap in to bring them all the way back up to full health, and then that totally just can swap the game around a bit. Finley gets so big. Then I've had a few different games where I would use Bran's double up ability to make my big Finley or my big Elise get in twice. So you can kind of, and you're also healing them while doing that. So it's really sweet. Like I definitely think explorers are going to be part of the meta. But back to like the original point, I think they did a great job introducing a lot of new, interesting playable characters that totally it changed the meta, but it was such a natural evolution of things where it didn't feel like there wasn't a day one comp where everyone was just like, oh, this is the new most broken thing.
Yep.
Like nothing else competes with it. This is the next Trigor. It really didn't feel like there was anything like that. Like there were characters who were good, and then some characters got a little bit better with bug fixes or buffs, but overall, I think they really nailed the overall balance of the new characters in terms of giving us a lot of playable things that were strong and changed the game, but nothing that felt like it was so overpowered. It's just far and away better than everything else in the game.
Yeah, no, I think they did a great job of basically having that, and especially having these big drops too, versus the drops in the beginning where it would only be a couple mercenaries of like 4 and maybe some of the bigger
Mm-hmm.
ones of 5 and stuff. Is okay, you would have a couple, try them out right away. Oh, we find out this is what they work in. This is gonna be like the best comp in like a week, maybe 2 at most.
Mm-hmm.
Where this, I would say it definitely took like a good month to kind of figure out like Shadow is a really top one for a while. There was a lot of different builds running in the beginning. And the main thing too is with having so many mercenaries is what kind of Mullahoo would talk about is you're kind of picking and choosing what you want to go for. You
Mm-hmm.
would have to start grinding with that and be like,
Yeah,
okay,
pick your Pokemon.
this is yep, you pick your Pokemon. And it's like some people picked Nagas, some people picked Explorers when they first came out, some went for the Shadow. So it's kind of cool to see all of these things for different people start to kind of go up. And then once people found like, okay, this is strong, then everyone started to kind of go for that. But it definitely took a long time to reach that point. So I think
Yeah,
it's, been a great thing. And I've really enjoyed the change that they've made for the release dates.
yeah. I think, and this is probably something we can talk about on another episode. I think in a perfect world, I think 4 times a year would be like the absolute like perfect sweet spot in terms of
Hmm.
uh, timing between releases. But given that we know the schedule we're on right now is more every mini set, so it's probably like 3 times a year or so. But they have hinted in the past about the potential of eventually doing like 4 main sets a year or something. So if they did ever go down that road, presumably mercenaries would also follow it. And I think, or even if they didn't want to go that far, just doing a like we talked about this a little bit before the show, I think, where just the idea of maybe a tavern pass gives you 2 mercenaries, or an event has 2 mercenaries instead of one. Just something to give a little bit more that comes in the in between times. I don't think we need a lot, but I definitely wouldn't mind just for when things finally do start to settle down. Like these 2 new characters, right? Finley and Cthulhu. Like this is great. We're getting 2 new characters this month, and they both seem like fairly impactful characters. But it's obviously very different than the big drops, but it's also nice because it gives more characters to synergize with potential new mercenaries. So when we do get those big drops, they end up being more impactful because we've gotten a handful of characters along the way that also synergize with them. Because as we've seen, synergy is really like the top thing you want to be doing in mercenaries. It's like synergy and stats and like killing your opponent before they can act, so you're denying actions. Those are like the big things you want to be doing. And I definitely think we're going to see some characters that were previously unviable maybe made more viable by the addition of whatever we get in the next big set.
Yeah, for sure. And the cool thing too is you're saying kind of like the in between time is I think they've been doing a fantastic job with the events. All the
Mm-hmm.
events that have been dropping. It's been a lot of fun and how they extended it out. I really like how they are doing delayed days. I
Mm-hmm.
remember kind of glitched a little bit with the first one of all of it, just kind of dropped it once. But at least having like delayed, you kind of have something to look forward to, and it kind of takes a whole week of content a little bit. So I think it's really cool how they basically have been doing just a great job, and especially once they added the diamonds to the events, it's just another kind of like thing to strive for and get a lot more people into. So I hope eventually in the future maybe they add on to it even a little bit more. But for right now, I think it's been great job on what they're doing. But yeah, as you were saying, kind of like the in between. Sometimes, like right now, we're getting 2, but next month, we'll probably hopefully get one more event by then before the big drop. But just adding even a little bit more content to events, maybe extending it like another day or two, just more coins, more tasks, just a couple extra things to do, I think would definitely help out.
And touching on that same thing, I do think our PvE enjoyers could do with a little bit more love. It feels like there have been less bounties compared to the last time around, where when we got N'Zoth, we kind of got a peek into Darkshore with the one bounty, and then eventually we got the rest of Darkshore and all of Sunken City on the release. I mean, maybe we'll get something like that too next month, where whatever the September bounty is will be kind of a peek into where we're going for, or part of where we're going for the new expansion. All like themed around that and whatnot. But it definitely would be nice if they added in like another bounty or two, just so the PvE focused people have a little bit more stuff to look forward to as well. Because obviously they get to use the new character in PvE, but I know a lot of the fun for a lot of people is like experiencing these new bosses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think we probably will. I think we'll kind of like you said with the Zoth one. I think we'll probably get a sneak peek with one of them. So just having one bounty, and that would be cool next month. It's always cool to have new bounties, new fights, kind of figure out the themes for that, and having a little sneak peek of like the whole next like theme part would be kind of cool to see like the route they're gonna go with that. So yeah, I think it would be a great thing, and hopefully it comes with the next event.
For sure, yeah. So definitely look forward to that. Also, big shout out to them making the events more new player friendly. They've improved a lot since the beginning, and I think it is possible for most like pretty new players to make their way through an event. So definitely, events seem to be one of the best ways of doing this. Another thing that I heard was very popular that got some newer players in was the legendary quests line they did for the Fire Festival. One of those was a Mercenaries quest. And I know a few different people who they had to do a Mercs quest and to get a reward, and so they did it and they ended up liking it, and so that got them started in the mode. So more stuff like that also always welcome to just get players to try it, because I think there are a lot of people who are in this boat of, I tried it at launch, I didn't like it at launch because there were all these problems, and I haven't touched it since. And they have no idea so many things have changed with the game because they haven't been keeping up with it. So I think that's a great way to get those type of players kind of back into it and really re-experience it almost for the first time.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good thing because I think Mercenaries got a bad rap when it first launched,
For
and
sure.
it's definitely been doing a great job of redeeming itself, though, I would say. We follow the events, the new ways that everything's been coming in, and we're starting to finally get to the coins that will have a coin exchange, which will be good later this year, and then beginning of next year for the PvE end game. So I'm kind of hoping that everyone will give it a second shot once both of those things are out together. And I think once those are out, then everyone can kind of evaluate the mode and be like, okay, is this for me or not? Because I feel like that is going to be kind of like the peak of where Mercenaries should have kind of started off, of
Yeah,
having all of this set up. And I feel like that is going to be the full Mercenaries mode altogether.
I agree. So hopefully, and then maybe we'll see Blizzard push it a little bit harder too, because I think they've been kind of waiting until the mode is in better place to bring in more people because they saw what happened at launch, so they don't want that happening again. So hopefully we will see improvements with that. I mean, I like to talk about duels quite a bit because duels also started off on the wrong foot. I don't think people were as invested or as angry about it because duels wasn't selling $50 pre-orders. I think that definitely has something to do with it. But the fact that duels went from this mode that was constantly kind of like memed on by the community to one that has not only become more accessible, but it's also just become kind of more enjoyed by the community and has like a bigger following. The devs are very receptive to feedback and interactive with the community. it's really improved quite a ton, and it didn't happen overnight. Like, it took a long time, but I think we're on the right track for improving things. Still far from perfect in some ways, but I think we're on the right road to making it better and making it more appealing to the general Hearthstone player base.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're getting there, and hopefully, like I said, beginning of next year is we'll kind of see, once we're at that point, is this what people wanted? Is this what we were kind of promised with the Mercenaries mode? And will Blizzard kind of achieve that for us? So really hoping that they get there. And so far, of everything we've seen, as you said, we're on the right track. And as long as they stay on that track, I think we will get there.
Yeah, so definitely a lot to look forward to in the future. But we've been going for a little while here. We do want to get to our last little segment, so we're doing something fun again this week. We thought it would be neat to take the new mercenary Finley out in the fighting pit. We're gonna do some Explorer themes build, just kind of like last time. We're gonna do a little best of 3 with some builds we put together before we started recording. So it should be kind of fun. If you're on the audio version, I definitely recommend switching over to YouTube for this so you can see the games. But yeah, this should be really fun. I'm excited to see how the Explorers comps end up doing, especially against each other in the mirror match.
Yeah, it'll be fun to kind of see how this unfolds and all that, because we'll have some of the same mercs, but maybe a little bit of different benches. So just have to kind of see how it plays out.
Yeah, and I think people will definitely enjoy it as well. Get a little sneak peek at what Finley can do and whatnot. So that'll be fun. So we'll swap over to that here. Get Hearthstone up. All right, so we're both rocking Explorers here. Now, what I'm going to try and do for the beginning is I think I'm going to go... Elise, Bran, Finley. Looks like WizardBeast is doing the same, and we all have the large Explorers. So these are some fat stats, as you can see. Even without Cookie, 100 HP Finley. Pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. So turn 1, we want to get some stats. Crit damage is pretty risky. So I think I'm just going to deal damage here. And then just swing at the Elise.
Job's done.
He goes for the buff too. Alright, well, it looks like we had the same kind of plan here. Let's see what our Murloc abilities are here. So we got Go Fish, Devour, and Healing Wave. Not really good ones, unfortunately. We can get our Bleed off. And I think we're actually going to use Bran with the Bleed, because that should kill the Elise. Unless he goes for a heal here. The only way you can heal with the Elise, though. So, I'm not super worried about that. I think we might actually just give our Finley Divine Shield and a bunch of attack. Seems pretty decent. We could give our Elise the Divine Shield and the attack to try and save her, potentially. That might actually work. I think it's worth a shot.
Job's done.
Worst case, we still get some attack for the Finley. And then we still want Bran doing that, so we crit the Bleed. Alright, so he does the same thing there. Oh wow, we both did the exact same thing. That is funny. So now we can root. And the fact that we're rooting means we can actually progress to towards the golden monkey here. So we can go root into using Brand's ability here, and it'll actually cast the next one in the chain of the golden monkey. And then since we won't be, since he's gonna try and root us, I think I'm just going to heal. We'll like heal Elise here.
Job's done.
Although no, she's still gonna die. No, she won't die because they can't attack. Alright, yeah, this seems fine. Interesting. Will they go for the root? Yep. There's our boulder. Kind of an unfortunate target there. Actually, a super unfortunate target there. Oh boy. Alright, now... Oh, but it doesn't actually progress this one. It uses it, but it doesn't progress the step. Alright, well, we just learned something. I didn't realize that's how that worked. Well, the good news is Elise is really big now. So he could even just go for, honestly, going for an attack with Finley and then using the Elise. Like we could try and kill their Finley, or their Elise and then their Finley.
Job's done.
Alright, I think that's fine. Alright. Kill the Elise. Oh, and we got Divine Shield because of that. That's really nice. He's gonna swing it again, but we have the health advantage. Here, we're going to send in Merc and Reno. Oh, he had the big heal Reno. Oh man, that's really bad for us. I was actually talking about this before the game. I used to have the other equipment on here, but I swapped it out. But I really like the Restore 100 for Reno. I think that's really sweet. So I think I'm going to buff up my own and then swing into their Reno. And then I guess we'll hit the Finley. Oh no! Oh wait, no, it's friendly. Alright, I thought Reno was about to steal my big buff. I was gonna be sad. Reno living at 1 HP, wow. I guess here, honestly, we should just snipe the Reno. Then we'll Hailstorm. I really like Merc with Finley. But even if we had the big heal with Reno, it wouldn't have worked because both of our explorers died. Oh, he has frost resist. I forgot he had frost resist.
Job's done.
A lot of it too. Yeah, we're probably pretty dead then. So we might have to try out a different strategy here. Oh, in comes Hook Tusk. Well, we gotta get rid of Bran. Or try to, at least. Oh, and that swap is pretty crazy. Oh, and he gets to swing again. Oh, and he gets the Divine Shield too, and that's gonna be game 1. That was a pretty sick game 1. I'm gonna see, do we edit? Maybe we put our own big heal on the Reno. I was thinking about that before. Because I liked our opener. The opener definitely still felt good. Definitely regretting local R as my choice now, though, for this matchup. Because I was not thinking about Bran's default is Frost Resist, so makes local R very, very sad. I think that's gonna be definitely a tricky one to overcome. But we're gonna run it back. See if there's anything we can do here to come out on top. Definitely felt close in the beginning. So Elise definitely is the focus here. No question about that. But as we saw before, the Bran and the Finley get out of hand, and if Bran has a good resist against you, or if you're just an attacking focus comp where you're taking a bunch of that residual damage, it really makes it pretty hard. Because their stats are just massive. Interesting, so he's taking a different approach this time around, saying I'm not as scared of the Elise, I'm more scared of the Bran. Definitely not what I was expecting. Let's check our abilities here. Invasion, Go Fish, and Pufferfish. Last time he opted to save the Elise. He could go for that again. Might not be a bad idea to try and save our Bran in the kind of the same respect. Maybe we just go for the attack though. You know, I think we're gonna try and save the Bran.
Job's done.
So you still want to do this for the bleed to crit though. Interesting, buffing Finley. So now if we had a cookie snipe, that would be really, really good, obviously. His Finley's bigger than ours, which is definitely scary. I think what we have to do is we have to just hit the Elise. Hit the Finley. And then... Or we could just double hit the Finley if we... But no, that doesn't really work with the crit. I do this because it plays around the root better.
Job's done.
And I imagine he's going to try and play around the route here like we did last game. Oh, interesting. Oh, did he just have enough? Oh no, it wasn't quite enough. Although the thing that's rough, though, is now I didn't really play around this as good as I should have. So now he's going to get the double... Yeah, the double heal. We can get a double heal of our own, though. I think we have to protect... Might have to be Elise. We could root this turn. And buff her up. But then Brand's not doing, like, anything. So maybe root is just enough protection, and then we'll just try and swing in on the Reno, because he has less stats. He should act first, anyway. Oh, but we lose Brand to the taunt. However, that does give us the Reno swap in. Or not Brand, we lose Finley. So look at that, plus 100 on Elise, plus 80 on Brand. Feels pretty good. We're going to use Flexin on Finley just in case. I think our out has to be going for the Golden Monkey at this point. So we'll just deal some damage to Finley, I suppose. He has to punch through our Reno. Oh, but I guess he can punch through our Reno because of that Brand crit. So that's definitely looking problematic. And now here it's like... his characters have so much frost resist that local R doesn't really do anything, so we have to send in Merc Guy. Actually, maybe we just send in local R, even though it's not going to do very much, just for the monkey. Yeah. Because the monkey is pretty much our out here. The monkey will get us above that total. And so we'll just go this into make his thing go twice. And maybe the monkey gets us out of here. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. I mean, the stats here are kind of crazy. So they don't have the he doesn't have the speed to kill Elise before she can monkey. Even though he has a really big Finley. Oh, but going for local R. But not able to stop local R, and turns out we didn't even need the double there. Local R and the monkey just too strong. In comes Hook Tusk and Blink Fox. So they do still have a chance here. We're going to buff up our stats to try and keep our monkey alive. And might as well just go for this for the damage, stack our 5s. We can even swing with the monkey just to stack more 5s. But I think we should have this. Yep, that'll do it. GG, and we'll move on to game number 3. All right, final game here. I think think we're going to start the same. There is a part of me that wants to hold the Bran and put out something like Merc, but I think it's just way too vulnerable to the big Finley. Alright. Probably going to see the same open here that we saw before. Maybe he's going to focus the Elise now because it didn't work out last time. Elise is very threatening, yep. Looks like that's what he's going for. So here we can get the big bleed. I think it's actually more important we do this into this.
Job's done.
Both Elises will die here, I believe, but I think it's still worth it. Oh wow, he actually ate the Elise stats. That's not very good for me. We're both gonna get Reno heals here, unless he decides to hold Reno, which he definitely could. Alright. Looks like he's not gonna hold the Reno. So I think here we need to start taking down the Finley. Brand's kind of awkward. I guess we can... Let's check our abilities. Slime Time, Invasion, Fishy Barrage. Being able to get around Reno's taunt might be useful. But I think we're just going to... Bronzebeard Spirit for another buff. Because his Divine Shield should be gone by then. So Reno's looking nice and safe. Look at that, 50, 102 Divine Shield taunt. And now we can start blasting there, and we'll go in for the crit here on their Reno. Yeah, the Explorer mirror match is pretty wild, gotta say. It's making me think twice about having something like Localar in the back, though, since Bran has those natural resists, since he isn't on the Shadow version. And again, it is going to be an exact kill here on his side for Reno. Whereas, unfortunately, we are not at that range yet. And unfortunately, Bran is ever so slightly smaller here than Reno, so we are going to waste some damage here, but is what it is. Honestly, I think it might be better here just to try and protect our Merc with Finley, and then just go in for more damage. I'm going to go in for more damage here because I expect them to use the double attack on the Bran. Potentially. Maybe I should just swing and kill it, though. Yeah, swinging and killing it's probably just better. And then we'll just damage the Bran. Enough damage anyway. Oh, I should have shot... Oh, no, it's fine, though, because... So, Finley's actually pretty important there. And he gets Divine Shield because we had more minions. Oh, wow, that was huge. Huge moment. That turn. So, Merc putting in absolute work. And now we can pretty much just straight up kill the Blink Fox. and then we'll do it on merc again. Oh, this is such a cool combo. Oh my god, I love it. This is a sick combo. Explorers are really fun, especially in these weird mirror matchups. Would not be surprised if it does become a popular comp on ladder. But we're still in the early days, so no one knows what the best build's gonna be yet. This is pretty crazy, though. Blink Fox down. Now Localar gets to come in, and that should pretty much be the game. Make him do the crit stuff. We'll take care of Hook Tusk, and then we'll just Hailstorm. Look at this. The merc I did work with Sir Finley. That was really cool, and he appreciated the stat buffs we got from earlier on in the game. Definitely pulled his weight this game. Oh, but he still has all that frost resist. GG's.
Hey, I'm back.
Hey, good games.
Yeah, no, those were some good ones. I miscalculated. Merc, I had double attack, and I was like, oh, once I saw that happen, I was like, oh, I lost my Finley, and I was like, oh, that's probably game there.
Yeah, those were some really fun back and forth games. Like, even though we obviously had the same start, and it was funny, I actually made a mistake. I was supposed to have the Reno heal equipment on for game one, but I forgot I swapped off of it. So that took me by surprise when you got that. It wouldn't have mattered in game one because I think you killed both my explorers at the same time. So even if I did throw them in, I wouldn't have got the heal. So that's a risk you have to be aware of. But it was really fun, like seeing the explorer mirror match. And it's funny how Localar went from being a huge liability in that one game to being the thing that like basically saved me because of the getting the Goldie Monkey when you tried to go for Bran over Elise.
I was thinking about trying to go for him instead, and I was like, oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a flip because I did get lucky and I actually had Devour at 5 speed for Finley. So it was a 5 speed flip on me going for your release with Finley, or you getting Monkey off, and then you got Monkey, and then you also got the other one. I was like, I had 3 5s. I had Reno, Finley, and Brand. Wow. And I was like, I lost all of them.
I didn't even realize. That's so funny.
Yeah, but no, that was good. It was also funny too. The first game from the Mercology ability, I ended up getting the Murloc that
and then I hit it with the crit damage.
Yep, you hit it with the boulder exactly, and then it crit all of your guys for 30. I was like, ooh, that turned out really well.
Yeah, I was thinking that by using that ability twice, it advanced the monkey quest twice, but it doesn't. It stays on that second ability. The only way to advance it twice is if you double the Elise skill 2. That does advance it because it specifically says it advances the step.
You can do it if it's on the boulder turn. So what you could do is you can do your boulder on Elise, and then if you double it, it goes to the next one. So yeah, it'll give you a monkey, and then you could have another
next
monkey
turn. Oh, that's
so you
cool.
could even double monkey.
That's awesome.
That would just be so much damage.
Talk about overkill, yeah. Like one monkey is already crazy enough. But that was really fun. I'm glad we did that. Again, if you're audio only, definitely check it out on YouTube. We'll have the video up for the games there. It was definitely fun checking out a new character and seeing how all that kind of worked. I really liked your bench was neat with the Hook Tusk and the Blink Fox. Hook Tusk definitely put in some work in that the end of that first game. Like there was just nothing I could do versus Hook Tusk.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool, especially when you have that strong of a Finley, and since he's surviving, you just real quick swap with someone, and then Finley basically just one-shots them because he has so much attack already. So Blink Fox, I was hoping to maybe steal some better abilities, but it might be better to take the other equipment where you steal the last one instead might be a little better.
Yeah, so it's a bit
Instead of
more
going for the random.
consistent and whatnot,
Yeah.
because sometimes RNG can screw you, as we all know.
Yep.
Them's the break sometimes. But I think that's mostly going to wrap it up for this week's show. I do have a little end question to end on. Now that we have, we're finally basically going to be at the end of the Old Gods events. What's a character we would like to see in an upcoming event that is not currently in the game? And I have one in mind, so I'll start us off here. Character I would really love to see, that I think would be also a cool, iconic event character, would be Ysera. So, and I know you mentioned how I guess she has something to do with the Shadowlands a bit, when we were talking about that custom mercenary, the queen. So yeah, I have always been a big fan of like the original Ysera, and I love the cards they put out for her over the years. And it feels like we don't really have her and Malagos are like two of my favorite dragons that we still don't have in here yet. And maybe she could also just give a bit more boost to the nature tribe, because we have some really, really powerful nature units right now, but it feels like they're being used. There's no like, or maybe there is. I've seen like a fringe one running around, but there's no top tier like nature focus comp. So maybe but we have some very top tier nature characters. It's not a tribe that's struggling. It's usually the build isn't specifically focused around nature. You just have nature characters because they're pretty good. So maybe in time we will see. I'd love to see probably a green Ysera, and just having her synergize with dragons and nature abilities would be super duper cool. Maybe there's some way you can implement mechanics similar to her like dream cards, or that could be like a discover ability, or you could get one of her dreams. That would be really neat. So that's a character I would love to see as an upcoming Mercenaries event. What about you, WizardBeast? Is there anyone who you'd really like to see in one of the later events?
I would really like to see like a recall to the earlier Hearthstone, like Naxxramas, like Kel'Thuzad.
Okay.
It'd be really cool. I think he would be like a really cool design that they could do. Maybe some like mix of like Shadow Frost or other things like that. So I think he would be a cool character to just throw in. There was a person I actually did see who did that, and also the Custom Mercenaries. Yeah, and they did a pretty good job on that one too. So I think that would be a cool thing. Kind of just going back to the early days of like Curse of Naxxramas, because that was a lot of fun to play, and I think that would be a really cool character to introduce. Have like a resurrect mechanic, also kind of like Karen. So something kind of along those lines, just like fitting the theme, I think would be a really cool style.
Yeah, and there's like decent reason to suspect something like that could exist, because he has shown up in the recent expansion. So it's really not that outside the realm of possibilities. If they want to do something to tie it in, event mercenary wise, I could definitely see KT making sense there. So I think he'd be a really cool merc, and I would love to see him added. Maybe some more undead tribe support, which would be really neat, because it's a tribe, but it doesn't really. It's kind of like humans, except to a lesser extent, where at least humans have a few little things where they're trying to synergize with each other, whereas undead, like, a few characters have the undead tag, but there's no benefit for having the tag right now. So it would be cool to see maybe a character that gives you a little bit of reason to care about having undead characters. And who better to do that with than Kel'Thuzad, right? Like,
Yep.
So that'd be a cool one. But yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. If there's any character you would like to see as a upcoming event mercenary, or just in the upcoming Mercs drop in general. Again, that will be in the 24.4 patch. We kind of expect that to be probably around early to mid-October at the latest, is my kind of guesstimate about when that's going to happen, as usually the mini set is about 2 months out from the initial set release, and we just got that this past Tuesday, so just gives you a little frame of reference there. But yeah, we got Cthulhu coming in a week and a half. We got Finley to mess around with now, maybe another character in between now and the big drop. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing how Finley spices up the meta. Those games are really fun. Messing around with the Explorers comp, and I would not be surprised if we start seeing some of that on ladder in the near future. People get their Finleys ready. But that is going to wrap it up for episode 28 of the Fighting Pit podcast. I want to thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, do remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good social media stuff. Really helps us out a ton and super appreciate it. And again, big shout out to everyone who entered the contest. Really appreciate all the submissions, and congrats again to our contest winners. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Fighting Pit. I want to thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.
See you guys. Stay safe.